American pickups are supposed to be tough, reliable, and built for hard work, but some were complete disasters. Strange designs, weak engines, poor engineering, and problems that left owners frustrated made these trucks famous for all the wrong reasons. Some looked like great ideas but failed in real life. Definitely didn't know this. These are the 8 dumbest and worst American pickups ever made. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and thanks for watching. In 1949, in a decade when American vehicles were getting bigger, stronger, and more intimidating, when pickup trucks were becoming symbols of hard work and toughness, Crosley Motors looked at the entire idea of a truck and asked, what if we made it tiny? And the result was one of the strangest utility vehicles America ever produced, the Crosley Farm-O-Road. A machine that looks like someone took a pickup truck, removed half of it, added a little tractor inspiration, and decided the result was somehow practical. And the weird part? It actually made sense, at least on paper. Because the Farm-O-Road was not trying to compete with the giant American pickups of the era. It wasn't built to haul heavy loads. It wasn't designed to pull massive trailers. It wasn't trying to be a replacement for a full-size work truck. Instead, Crosley created something much smaller, something aimed at farmers, small property owners, and anyone who needed a simple machine for basic jobs. And that mission explains why it looks so unusual. Because compared with traditional pickups from Ford or General Motors, the Farm-O-Road almost looks like it belongs in another category. The proportions are completely different. The body is extremely compact. The bed is tiny. The overall footprint is closer to a small utility vehicle than a traditional American truck. And next to a normal pickup from the late 1940s, the size difference is almost comical. A full-size truck looks like a serious industrial machine. The Farm-O-Road looks like it could fit inside the truck bed of the bigger vehicle. But that was the point. Crosley was not chasing strength through size. They were chasing usefulness through simplicity. And simplicity was something Crosley understood very well. The company already had experience building small, economical vehicles at a time when most American manufacturers were focused on bigger and more luxurious machines. The Farm-O-Road continued that philosophy. Small engine, lightweight construction, basic mechanical design. No unnecessary complexity. And for certain jobs, that actually worked. On a farm, not every task requires a massive truck. Sometimes you just need something that can move tools, carry supplies, travel across property, or handle small maintenance work. And the Farm-O-Road could do those things. It was cheap to operate, easy to maintain, and simple enough that owners didn't need specialized knowledge to keep it running. But then came the biggest problem. The same thing that made it interesting also made it limited. It was simply too small. Because Americans were used to a certain idea of a truck. A truck had to look powerful. It had to have presence. It had to feel capable even when standing still. The Farm-O-Road did not give that impression. It looked more like a mechanical experiment, a vehicle that was still trying to decide what it wanted to become. A truck? A tractor? A utility cart? A miniature Jeep-like machine? The answer was somehow all of them, and none of them. That identity problem made it difficult for many buyers to understand. Because automotive culture is built on expectations. People know what a truck is supposed to be. They know what a sedan is supposed to be. But the Farm-O-Road sits between categories, and anything that lives between categories has a harder time finding a mass audience. Owners who used them often appreciated the machine for what it was, not what they wished it was. Because once you accepted its limitations, the little Crosley had charm. It was lightweight, easy to maneuver, and capable of reaching places larger trucks struggled with. A huge pickup might have more power, but it also had more weight and bulk. The Farm-O-Road could squeeze into smaller spaces and operate where a bigger vehicle was unnecessary. But the reality was simple. Most Americans wanted more. More size, more power, more capability. And the market was moving in the opposite direction. The post-war economy was growing. Families wanted bigger cars. Workers wanted bigger trucks. The
The American dream was getting larger by the year, and the Farm-O-Road represented almost the opposite idea: efficiency, minimalism, doing more with less, which made it innovative but also made it difficult to sell. Because being ahead of the market can sometimes look like being wrong, and the Farm-O-Road was definitely ahead of its time. Modern compact utility vehicles, small work machines, and side-by-side farm vehicles all share some of the same philosophy: small size, practical design, specialized purpose. The Farm-O-Road was exploring those ideas decades early. It just arrived before people were ready. And that is why it remains one of the strangest American vehicles of the late 1940s. Not because it was badly engineered, not because it was useless, but because it challenged one of America's strongest automotive beliefs: bigger is better. The Crosley Farm-O-Road looked like a truck that forgot to grow up. But maybe that was exactly what made it interesting. Because while everyone else was building bigger machines, Crosley was quietly asking a different question: how small can a useful vehicle become before it stops being a truck? And in 1949, America didn't really know the answer yet.
1961. By the early 1960s, pickup trucks are entering a new era. They are no longer just farm machines. They are becoming personal vehicles. People want trucks that can work during the week but also look modern enough for everyday driving. And Ford sees an opportunity. So they try something different, something that sounds logical, something that on paper seems like the future: the Ford F-100 Unibody. The idea is simple. Why build a pickup with two separate pieces, the cab and the bed, when you can combine everything into one smooth body, one structure, one flowing shape, less weight, cleaner design, better efficiency? It sounds like a brilliant engineering move. But then people saw it, and many had the same reaction. Wait, is that actually a truck? Because visually, the F-100 Unibody looks completely different from what Americans expected a pickup to be. Traditional pickups had a clear identity: a separate cab, a separate cargo bed, a visible division between passenger area and working area. That separation was almost part of the definition of a truck. But Ford removes it, and the result creates one of the strangest pickup silhouettes ever produced. The cab and bed flow together into one long, continuous shape. Instead of looking like a tool built for work, it almost looks like a giant stretched station wagon, a truck body that forgot where the passenger compartment ended and the cargo area began. And that is where the controversy starts. Because automotive design is not only about engineering, it is about psychology. People have expectations. A pickup truck should look tough. It should look like it can survive abuse. It should visually communicate strength. But the Unibody does something unexpected. It looks smooth, almost too smooth. The body lines are cleaner, the transition from cabin to bed is more integrated. The truck loses some of the visual separation that people associated with toughness. And for many traditional truck buyers, that created doubt. Because a truck is not just transportation, it is a promise that it can carry, tow, haul, and handle hard work. And the Unibody design made some people question whether Ford had sacrificed that purpose for style. The biggest concern was the structure itself. Traditional pickups used a separate cab and bed mounted onto a frame, which gave them a very clear working identity. The Unibody design changed that relationship. The combined body created a different kind of construction, and while it worked for many normal uses, some buyers worried about what would happen under serious loads. Would it handle rough farm work, heavy hauling, years of abuse? Those questions mattered. Because truck buyers were not looking for experiments. They wanted durability. They wanted something proven, a machine they could depend on. And the F-100 Unibody arrived during a time when the pickup market was becoming increasingly competitive. Manufacturers were fighting for buyers who wanted both comfort and toughness. So a design that looked too different had a harder time convincing traditional customers.
But the interesting part is that the Unibody wasn't actually a bad idea. In fact, many of its concepts were ahead of their time. Reducing unnecessary weight, improving integration between body components, creating smoother aerodynamic shapes. Modern vehicles use similar thinking everywhere. But in 1961, the pickup market was not ready for a truck that challenged the visual formula. The F-100 Unibody was caught between two worlds, too modern for traditional truck buyers, too truck-like for people wanting a car. And that identity problem hurt it. Because the truck wasn't failing because it was useless, it was failing because people didn't know what category it belonged to. And that can be fatal in the automotive world. A car needs a clear purpose, a truck needs a clear image. The Unibody blurred both. Still, it created one of the most memorable designs in Ford truck history. Because even today, when you see one, you immediately notice something is unusual. It does not look like other pickups. It has a strange elegance, a futuristic simplicity, almost like Ford accidentally designed a pickup from a later decade. And that's what makes it fascinating. It was a bold experiment during a conservative era, a truck that tried to become smoother when buyers still wanted it to look tougher, a machine that asked a question before the market was ready. What happens if a pickup stops looking like a separate box on wheels? The answer was the 1961 Ford F-100 Unibody. Not a disaster, not a revolution, but definitely one of the strangest pickups America ever made.
1974. By the 1970s, American pickup trucks have become something much bigger than simple work machines. They are no longer just tools for farmers and construction workers. They are symbols. Symbols of independence, adventure, freedom, the open road. And Chevrolet understands this perfectly. So they create a truck designed for a very specific purpose. A pickup built not just to carry cargo, but to carry an entire lifestyle. The Chevrolet CK Camper Special. And one version in particular, the Cheyenne Super Camper Special, takes the idea of go anywhere to an extreme. Because when you first see it, something feels wrong. Not mechanically, visually. The front looks like a normal Chevrolet pickup. Strong grille, classic body lines, familiar proportions. Everything seems balanced. Then your eyes move toward the back, and suddenly the truck appears to continue forever. The rear section stretches out so far that it almost looks like Chevrolet forgot to stop designing. It is long, very long, almost cartoonishly long, like someone took a regular pickup and kept pulling the frame backward until the proportions started becoming strange. And that is what makes the Camper Special one of the most unusual pickups of its era. Because the reason behind the design actually makes sense. These trucks were built for one job: carrying large slide-in campers. Not small camping equipment, not a few bags and a tent, real campers. Heavy living spaces mounted directly onto the truck bed, the kind of setup that turned a pickup into a small mobile home. And that created a unique engineering challenge. Because those campers added a huge amount of weight, the truck needed stronger suspension, a tougher frame, better weight distribution, more stability. So Chevrolet created a specialized platform, a truck designed around a massive load sitting over the rear axle. And technically, it worked. The Camper Special was not a joke mechanically. It was built for serious work. Heavy-duty components, reinforced structure, extra capability. A truck that could carry something that would overwhelm a normal pickup. But the problem was that the solution created a new visual problem: the proportions. Because normal pickups have a certain balance. The cab sits in front, the bed sits behind. The entire truck has a visual rhythm. But the Camper Special breaks that rhythm. The extended frame and rear overhang make the rear dominate the design. The front half looks like a normal pickup. The rear half looks like it belongs to a different vehicle entirely. Almost like a truck and a trailer became one machine. And that creates a strange optical effect. When parked, it looks exaggerated. When driving, it looks even stranger. The rear seems to follow behind like a separate object,
The wheelbase and extended body give it a stretched appearance that makes you wonder how it even fits into normal parking spaces. It looks less like a pickup truck and more like a small commercial vehicle wearing a Chevrolet badge. But there's something fascinating about that. Because unlike many strange-looking vehicles, the Camper Special was not strange because engineers failed. It was strange because engineers solved a very specific problem. Function created the appearance, not the other way around. And that is an important difference. The truck wasn't designed to look ridiculous. It just happened that the best tool for the job looked unusual. Inside, it was still a traditional Chevrolet pickup, a practical cabin, straightforward controls, a driving position designed for visibility and confidence. The goal was not luxury, the goal was control. Because carrying a heavy camper changes the entire personality of a truck. Acceleration becomes slower, braking requires more attention, handling becomes more deliberate. The truck is not a sports machine, it is a platform, a foundation, a vehicle designed to support something much larger than itself. And that is why the Super Camper Special earned respect among owners. People who actually used them understood the purpose. They knew that the strange proportions were not a mistake. The extended frame was there for a reason. The heavy-duty setup was there for a reason. It was built for people who wanted to take their home with them. But from the outside, it still looked bizarre. And that contrast is what makes it memorable. Because automotive design usually tries to hide its purpose. Manufacturers try to make vehicles look smooth, balanced, and attractive. The 1974 Chevrolet Super Camper Special does the opposite. It reveals its mission completely. It says, I am carrying something huge. I was built for weight. I was not designed to be prim. And in a way, that honesty gives it character. Today, many modern trucks have become larger and more capable, but they also try to hide their size with styling tricks. The 1974 Chevrolet Super Camper Special doesn't hide anything. It wears its purpose like a badge. It is too long, too specialized, too unusual, but also completely logical once you understand why it exists. A pickup stretched beyond normal proportions because normal proportions were not enough. And that is exactly why it remains one of the strangest American trucks ever built.
1982. By the early 1980s, the American automotive world is changing again. Fuel economy matters more than ever. Comfort is becoming a priority, and manufacturers are experimenting with new ways to blend practicality with everyday usability. This is the era when the car-based pickup idea starts to gain real attention, and GMC enters the conversation with something unusual: the GMC Caballero. At first glance, it looks like it cannot decide what it wants to be, and that confusion is exactly what makes it interesting. Because the Caballero is not a traditional pickup truck, and it is not a traditional car either. It exists somewhere in between, a hybrid concept before hybrids became normal in automotive language. The idea behind it sounds perfectly logical. Take a comfortable passenger car platform, keep the smooth ride, keep the refined road manners, keep the everyday usability, then add a small cargo bed at the back so it can also perform light utility work. On paper, it feels like a smart evolution, a way to create a vehicle that can do two jobs at once. But the reality is where things become visually strange, because when you first see the Caballero, your brain tries to categorize it instantly. Is it a coupe? Is it a pickup? Is it a utility vehicle? And the answer keeps shifting depending on the angle. From the front, it looks like a car, low, smooth, cleanly styled with a passenger car identity that feels comfortable and familiar. But then your eyes move backward, and suddenly the entire concept changes. The rear section is not a trunk, it's a cargo bed, open, functional, completely separate in purpose from the cabin. And that contrast creates the strange visual identity the Caballero is known for. Because it does not transition smoothly between car and truck. It interrupts itself. The body flows like a coupe,
until it suddenly stops and becomes a pickup bed. No gradual blending, no subtle transformation, just a clear functional break in the design language. And that's what makes it feel unusual compared to both categories, because traditional cars of the time are unified in shape. Everything flows into one continuous design, and traditional pickups are clearly structured. Cabin and bed are separate, but intentionally so. The Caballero breaks both expectations. It uses car styling on one half and truck utility on the other, and the result is a visual identity that sits uncomfortably between definitions, not because it is poorly designed, but because it is categorically ambiguous, and that ambiguity extends into how people understood it at the time. Some saw it as a comfortable pickup for everyday driving. Others saw it as a car that had lost its purity by adding a truck bed, and many simply didn't know where it fit in the market, because automotive identity in the early 1980s was still strongly defined. If you wanted a car, you bought a car. If you wanted a truck, you bought a truck. The Caballero tried to blur that line, and blurring lines in automotive culture is never easy. But mechanically, the idea made sense, because the underlying platform delivered car-like comfort, smooth ride quality, more refined handling than traditional body-on-frame pickups, easier everyday driving characteristics. It was designed for people who didn't need heavy-duty hauling, but still wanted occasional cargo space, luggage, light equipment, weekend utility. It was a lifestyle vehicle before that term became common, and that's where it becomes historically interesting, because the Caballero wasn't trying to replace trucks, it was trying to redefine what a light-duty utility vehicle could be. A pickup that drives like a car that can carry more than a trunk. But perception matters in automotive design, and perception is shaped by visual clarity. When a vehicle clearly communicates its purpose, people understand it quickly. When it doesn't, confusion becomes part of the identity. And the Caballero lives entirely in that space, because even today, when you look at it, your brain still does a small double take. It is familiar, but not fully. Functional, but not traditional. Stylish, but also utilitarian. And that tension is what gives it character. Not success in the traditional sense, but memorability. It belongs to a very specific moment in automotive history, when manufacturers were testing boundaries between categories, before SUVs fully defined that middle space, before crossovers became standard. The Caballero was one of those early experiments that asked a simple question: what happens when a car tries to do part of a truck's job? And the answer was this vehicle. Not perfect, not universally accepted, but undeniably important in showing where the industry might go next. Because even though it didn't dominate the market, it pointed in a direction that would later become mainstream. A vehicle that sits between comfort and utility, between passenger car and work tool, between two worlds that were not yet fully ready to merge.
1971. By the early 1970s, American pickup trucks have reached a very specific stage of evolution. They are no longer simple farm tools. They are no longer basic work machines. They are becoming specialized platforms for lifestyle use, travel, and increasingly recreational camping. And in this environment, Ford looks at a growing trend and decides to go all in on it. The idea is simple. If people are going to mount large slide-in campers onto pickup beds, then why not design a truck specifically for that job? Not adapted, not modified, but purpose-built from the ground up. And that is how the Ford F-350 Super Camper Special comes into existence. At first, it sounds logical, even practical. A stronger chassis, a reinforced suspension, a longer wheelbase, everything engineered to support heavy camper loads with more stability and confidence. But then you actually see it, and the reaction is immediate, because the proportions are not just different, they are extreme. The truck does not look like a normal pickup that has been slightly modified. It looks like a pickup that has been stretched until its original design language starts to disappear. The front half still feels familiar, A classic Ford truck face, strong grille, functional stance, recognizable identity that connects it to the broader F-Series family. But then your eyes move backward, and the vehicle continues and continues and continues. The bed is not just long, it is disproportionately long compared to the cab. So long that it starts to dominate the entire visual identity of the truck. It stops being a background element. It becomes the main subject. And that creates the strange optical effect that defines the Super Camper Special. Because instead of a balanced pickup silhouette, you get something that feels stretched, almost exaggerated, like the frame itself was extended further than visual harmony normally allows. And the result is a truck that looks slightly surreal when viewed in profile. Not because it is badly designed, but because function pushed it beyond typical proportions. And function is exactly the reason it exists. The Super Camper Special was built for one job: carrying heavy slide-in campers that turn a pickup into a mobile living space. Not lightweight recreational shells, but large, fully equipped units that add significant weight and shift the vehicle's center of gravity. To handle that, Ford had to rethink the structure. The wheelbase was extended to improve stability. The suspension was reinforced to manage constant load stress. The frame was engineered to reduce flex under weight. Everything about the truck is tuned for one condition: a heavy camper sitting on the back. And when that camper is installed, the design suddenly makes sense in a different way. The long bed is not unnecessary, it is required. The stretched frame is not excessive, it is functional. The proportions that look strange when empty become logical when loaded. But the key issue is perception, because most people do not see it with a camper installed. They see it as a truck on its own. And without that context, the visual impact is strong. The rear overhang feels extended. The body feels stretched beyond standard pickup proportions. The bed seems to dominate the vehicle's length in a way that disrupts the usual balance between cab and cargo area. It creates a silhouette that feels almost like two different design ideas merged together: a normal pickup front and an extended utility platform behind it. And that is why it leaves such a strong impression, because most pickups communicate their purpose through balanced proportions, cab and bed working together visually, a clear relationship between passenger space and cargo area. But the Super Camper Special breaks that harmony in favor of capability, and that choice defines its personality. Inside the cabin, the story is more familiar. This is still a Ford truck built in the early 1970s. Simple interior layout, durable materials, functional controls designed for long-term use rather than luxury comfort. The focus is not refinement, the focus is endurance. Because a vehicle designed to carry heavy campers must also be capable of long-distance travel under load. And that means reliability matters more than aesthetics. But from the outside, aesthetics cannot be ignored. Because even when parked, the Super Camper Special looks like it's in motion. Not physically, but visually. The extended body creates a sense of directional pull, as if the truck is still being stretched forward by its own design. And that is where the emotional response comes in. Some people see it as impressive engineering, a dedicated solution for a specific lifestyle need. Others see it as excessive, a truck pushed beyond natural proportions. But both reactions come from the same source, its unusual length. Because it's not just a pickup with a bed, it's a platform extended specifically for carrying living space. A machine designed to turn a vehicle into something closer to a mobile home base. And in that sense, it succeeds completely. It does exactly what it was built to do. But visually, it remains unforgettable for another reason. It shows what happens when engineering requirements take full control of design proportions. No stylistic compromise, no attempt to visually hide the function, just pure adaptation to a specific need. And that is why the 1971 Ford F-350 Super Camper Special stands out in automotive history.
Not because it is beautiful in the traditional sense, not because it is a performance icon, but because it is honest about what it is. A pickup stretched to its functional limit and kept there because that's exactly where it needed to be.
1986. By the mid-1980s, the American pickup world is going through another identity shift. Trucks are getting smaller in some segments, more efficient, more affordable, and at the same time, manufacturers are discovering something very important. Styling can sell personality, even when performance doesn't fully match it. And Chevrolet leans into that idea with the S10 Baja style pickup. At first glance, it looks like it has no interest in subtlety. It doesn't whisper its intentions, it shouts them. Loud graphics, bold decals, wide fender flares that visually exaggerate the stance, raised suspension that hints at off-road capability, and the general design attitude that says one thing very clearly: this truck is built for the desert. Or at least it wants you to think it is. Because the S10 Baja version is all about image. The standard Chevrolet S10 is a compact, practical pickup. Small footprint, easy to drive, efficient for daily use, a sensible truck for a wide range of everyday tasks. But when the Baja styling package is added, the entire personality changes. Not mechanically in a dramatic way, but visually in a very aggressive one. The body suddenly looks wider, even if the actual dimensions haven't changed much. The fender flares create a more muscular stance. The decals add a sense of speed and competition. The raised ride height gives it a more off-road oriented silhouette. And the overall effect is immediate. It looks like a desert race truck, a machine built to fly across sand dunes at high speed, a compact version of something you might see in an off-road racing event. And that is where the irony begins. Because underneath the visual identity, many of these trucks are still relatively modest in performance terms. They are not full competition desert racers. They are not heavily modified endurance machines. They are production pickups wearing the visual language of racing. And that contrast is what defines the S10 Baja experience. Because when you see it on the road, your brain expects aggression. It expects speed. It expects a kind of mechanical wildness that matches the graphics and stance. But in reality, it is often doing something much more ordinary. Driving to work, heading to a store, moving through suburban streets with the same calm behavior as any other compact truck. And that mismatch creates a strange but memorable identity. Because the truck looks like it belongs in motion, in dust, in chaos, in fast, unpredictable environments where suspension travel and horsepower matter deeply. But instead, it exists in everyday life. And that contrast becomes almost humorous over time. Not because the truck is pretending to be something it is not in a dishonest way, but because it is participating in a design trend that prioritizes personality over literal capability. And that is an important moment in automotive culture. Because by the mid-1980s, manufacturers are learning that customers don't just buy vehicles for function, they also buy them for identity. A truck can represent an attitude, a lifestyle, a feeling of adventure, even if that adventure is mostly symbolic. And the S10 Baja style pickup fits directly into that idea. It is not a full desert racing machine, but it borrows the visual language of one. And that alone changes how people perceive it. Because perception often matters more than specifications in everyday driving culture. When parked, it looks ready for action. When driving, it looks slightly exaggerated for its environment. And that tension is exactly why it stands out. Some people see it as playful, a compact truck with personality, a fun interpretation of off-road culture applied to a smaller platform. Others see it as overstyled, a vehicle that looks more extreme than its mechanical reality. But both reactions come from the same source. It tries to communicate excitement in a small package, and that makes it memorable. Because not every vehicle has to be a serious tool or a pure performance machine. Some vehicles exist in a space where attitude is the product. And the S10 Baja style pickup lives exactly in that space. A small truck with big visuals.
a desert dream wrapped around a city-sized platform. A machine that looks like it belongs in a race, even when it is just part of everyday traffic. And that contrast is what gives it its lasting charm.
1958. By the end of the 1950s, American truck design is already starting to split into two different worlds. One world is becoming more consumer-focused, with Ford and Chevrolet pushing smoother lines, more chrome, more comfort, and styling that helps trucks blend into everyday suburban life. The other world is still rooted in pure utility, work, durability, mechanical honesty. And in that second world sits the International Harvester A120 pickup, a truck that does not care about fitting in with design trends. It cares about surviving real work. And you can see that philosophy the moment you look at it. Because the A120 does not try to hide what it is. It does not soften its shape. It does not smooth its edges. It does not attempt to visually civilize itself the way many competitors were beginning to do in the late 1950s. Instead, it stands there with a kind of industrial confidence that feels almost closer to a piece of factory equipment than a passenger vehicle. The first thing that dominates your attention is the front end, and it is not subtle. The grille is large, upright, and extremely functional in appearance. Not decorative, not stylized, but structural. It looks designed to allow maximum airflow and cooling under heavy load conditions, as if the engine is expected to work hard for long periods without complaint. There is no attempt to make it sleek or aerodynamic in the modern sense, because that was not the priority. The priority was durability, and that creates a face that feels almost severe compared to its contemporaries. Where a Ford or Chevrolet truck of the era might have some curvature, some visual softness, some attempt at stylistic friendliness, the A120 feels direct, almost blunt, like it was designed with a ruler rather than a sculptor's eye. And that design language continues across the entire body. The panels are flat, the surfaces are simple, the lines are straight and functional. There is very little in the way of decorative styling or visual complexity. Everything about the truck communicates one idea. This is a working machine, not a lifestyle product, not a suburban accessory. A machine that exists to carry loads, handle rough conditions, and keep going even when the environment is not ideal. And that clarity is rare in automotive design, even in the 1950s, because most manufacturers, even when building work trucks, still tried to balance utility with consumer appeal. International Harvester did not fully participate in that balancing act. They leaned heavily toward function. And that is why the A120 looks so different even when placed next to other pickups from the same era. It does not visually compete on beauty. It competes on seriousness. The cab reinforces that identity. It is tall and upright, with a boxy structure that prioritizes interior space and visibility over aerodynamic shape or styling refinement. The windshield is large and practical, designed for clear forward vision during work conditions. The roofline is straightforward, with no dramatic curves or design flourishes. Even the proportions feel slightly more industrial than automotive in the traditional sense. And when you step back and look at the entire vehicle as a single object, the impression becomes even stronger. Because the A120 does not behave visually like a passenger pickup trying to appeal to families or suburban buyers. It behaves like a tool that happens to have wheels. The bed is simple and functional, with no unnecessary styling elements. The connection between cab and cargo area is direct and honest. There is no attempt to disguise its purpose or elevate its image. It is built to carry things, heavy things, dirty things, uncomfortable things, and that is what it communicates visually. But what makes the A120 especially interesting is not just how utilitarian it looks, it's how that look reflects a broader philosophy in industrial America at the time. International Harvester was deeply connected to agricultural and industrial machinery, tractors, harvesters, heavy-duty equipment, machines where reliability matters more than aesthetics, and that mindset carries directly into the A120. It is not designed for emotional appeal in the way cars often are. It is designed for trust.
Because in real working environments, a truck is not judged by how it looks in a parking lot. It is judged by how it performs under stress, mud, weight, long hours, repeated use without failure. And the A120 is built with that reality in mind. Everything about it suggests endurance rather than elegance, strength rather than refinement, and that gives it a very specific personality. It feels less like a consumer product and more like an extension of industrial capability, a machine you operate rather than admire. But that is also where its visual problem begins, because as the 1950s progress, trucks are slowly becoming part of everyday life, not just work life. They're starting to appear in suburban neighborhoods, on family roads, in contexts where visual identity begins to matter more than pure function. And in that changing environment, the A120 stands out even more. Because compared to smoother, more consumer-friendly designs, it feels harsher, more mechanical, less approachable, almost intimidating in its simplicity. Where other trucks begin to say, "I can do work, but I am also comfortable to live with," the A120 continues to say, "I am here to work." And that difference defines how it is remembered, not as a failed design, not as a weak competitor, but as a pure expression of utility at a time when the market was beginning to move away from that purity. Inside the cabin, that philosophy continues without compromise. There is no unnecessary complexity, no attempt at luxury styling, no effort to soften the experience beyond what is needed for basic usability. Everything is placed where it should be for function. Controls are straightforward, materials are durable. The driving position is designed for practicality and visibility, not comfort optimization. It is a workspace, not a lounge, and that reinforces the identity of the entire vehicle. But perhaps the most important thing about the A120 is not what it is, but what it represents in automotive history. It captures a moment when trucks were still allowed to look unapologetically industrial, before the full transition into lifestyle vehicles, before styling began to dominate utility perception. The A120 sits right in that earlier phase, where the truck doesn't try to be anything other than what it is: a working machine, a tool, a vehicle built to handle conditions that most passenger cars would never encounter. And that is why it remains visually memorable today. Because even among classic pickups, it doesn't blend in, it stands out. Not because it is flashy, but because it is honest, in a way that later designs often softened. A truck that looks like it was built in a world where durability mattered more than appearance, and where nobody expected a work machine to smile.
1963. By the early 1960s, Chevrolet is experimenting more aggressively than most people realize. The Corvair project has already introduced America to a very unusual idea: a rear-engine passenger car, something that feels more European in concept than traditionally American. But Chevrolet doesn't stop there. They take that same unconventional platform and ask a question that sounds simple, but changes everything. What happens if you turn a rear-engine car into a pickup truck? And the answer becomes one of the strangest utility vehicles General Motors ever put into production: the Chevrolet Corvair Rampside. At first glance, it already feels like it belongs in a different category of automotive thinking. Because most American pickups in the early 1960s are still built around a familiar formula: front engine, rear-wheel drive, separate cab and bed. A clear, almost textbook definition of what a truck should be. But the Rampside ignores that tradition completely. It is built on the Corvair platform, which means the engine is not in the front at all. It is in the rear. And that single decision changes the entire identity of the vehicle before you even consider its cargo capability. Because now the front of the truck is not dominated by a powertrain. It becomes open space. And Chevrolet uses that space in a very unconventional way. Instead of a normal flat loading bed with simple side access, the Rampside introduces something unusual: a built-in side loading ramp integrated into the body, a fold-down panel that allows cargo to be rolled directly into the bed from the side rather than lifted over a tailgate.
On paper, it is an intelligent idea. It reduces lifting effort, it improves accessibility, it makes loading certain types of cargo easier and more efficient, and in a purely engineering sense, it shows real creativity. But visually and culturally, it creates confusion. Because when people look at a pickup truck, they expect a certain shape, a certain structure, a certain logic, and the Rampside disrupts that expectation immediately. The proportions are smaller than traditional pickups. The stance is different. The overall silhouette does not communicate heavy-duty truck in the way American buyers were used to in the early 1960s. Instead, it looks compact, unusual, almost like a utility vehicle that evolved from a passenger car rather than being designed as a truck from the beginning. And that is exactly what it is. A truck derived from a car platform, not a purpose-built commercial chassis. And that distinction matters more than it might seem, because in truck culture, identity is everything. A pickup is not just judged by what it can carry, it is judged by how it looks while doing it. And the Rampside struggles with that visual expectation, because the rear engine layout already makes it unconventional. There is no long front hood to communicate strength or power. Instead, the front is relatively flat and simple, reflecting the absence of a front-mounted engine. And that creates an unusual visual effect. It looks like the truck has been reversed in concept compared to traditional designs. Power in the back, cab in the middle, cargo in a space that feels more like an extension of a car rather than a dedicated truck bed. And that made it difficult for some buyers to fully trust its capability, not because it couldn't work, but because it didn't match the mental image of what a real truck was supposed to be. And that is where the Rampside becomes historically interesting, because it represents a moment where engineering innovation moved faster than cultural acceptance. Chevrolet was experimenting with packaging, layout, and usability in ways that were ahead of their time, but the market was still grounded in older definitions of what trucks should look like and how they should behave. So, the Rampside ends up living in an in-between space, innovative in design, practical in certain use cases, but visually and conceptually unfamiliar to many traditional truck buyers. And that tension defines its legacy. Because when people remember the Rampside today, they don't just remember its specs or its engineering choices. They remember the feeling that it didn't quite belong in the category it was placed into. A pickup that carried its engine in the wrong place by conventional standards. A truck that loaded cargo from the side instead of the back. A machine that looked like it had been designed from a different logic entirely. And that is exactly why it stands out. Not because it failed, but because it tried to redefine what a pickup could be, before the rest of the industry was ready to follow.